The Supreme Court's going to obviously be a lot different without Ruth Bader Ginsburg sitting on the bench. She anchored the liberal wing that included Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan. Now the conservatives will hold a 5-3 majority in the short term, and that could soon grow to 6 if President Trump's nominee gets confirmed. The implications of that could be nothing short of seismic, as some huge cases are on the docket. The week after Election Day, the High Court will hear a case that could wind up overturning, for all intents and purposes, the Affordable Care Act. Then there's climate change, gun control, voting rights, President Trump's taxes, and a litany of other things that justices will have a say in, including perhaps the results of the upcoming election. Here to discuss that, plus RBG's indelible mark on the court in this country. We're joined by Mimi Rocah. She, the Democratic nominee for Westchester County DA, former federal prosecutor of the Southern District of New York, and good friend to the program. And Mimi, I said at the beginning of the show, I was struck by young people, even my daughter's age, to their grandmother, and so many people in between, that Justice Ginsburg was an icon to them. And then for women in the law like yourself, who've had to deal with glass ceilings and everything, how she was so much more. Why was she so resonant with so many people?
Yeah, hi, Richard. It's great to be with you to talk about her, because it struck me how personally and how deeply I felt this. I knew I would feel sad when she died. I knew it would be marking an incredible life and honoring her legacy, but I didn't quite expect to feel such a loss, such a devastation. And I really didn't expect so many people of so many different backgrounds. I mean, it's one thing for me as a Jewish woman lawyer to, honor this woman and feel the loss, because literally I would not be here as a lawyer if it were not for Ruth Bader Ginsburg and what she did with her own career to pave the way, and then with the cases and the rulings that she made and cases that she brought. But I've heard stories of people in bar in White Plains tearing up on Friday night, and, just silence when the news came across. I've talked to so many people. There was a rally last night in White Plains. So as you say, it seems to be very far and wide, this feeling. And I think it's because we're all really yearning for people of character right now, especially. And not that she didn't make mistakes. She wasn't perfect. Nobody is. But she really managed to be a public figure with such dignity and grace, and also conviction. And that's a hard combination to have, to be clearly passionate about something, or about things, namely equality, but also be human and be dignified and have a sense of humor. I mean, she had everything.
I feel people wrongly have been inured to the idea that even though Roe's been chipped away at, that it'll never be undone. And when you look at some of the names being floated right now, people need to, I think, recalibrate the consequences of a possible 6-3 court on issues of choice, on issues of voting rights, on issues of, obviously, even a week after the election, potentially, the future of the Affordable Care Act, and so many other things. I use the word seismic. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic here. That's how much of a difference what we look as established law or change in this country could be reexamined.
Right. And so, I was speaking a moment ago about her as a person that I think people revere so much and will miss, but it's also her literally on the court. It feels like a safety valve is gone at a time when we cannot afford to lose even one screw of a safety valve. And so her being gone feels highlights how fragile our democracy and a lot of these rights that we in some ways have taken for granted, and not all of us, but some have for so long, that we now realize, okay, wait, this can all be taken away by one Supreme Court appointment. as you mentioned, I mean, I think abortion is the clearest, reproductive freedom is the clearest example of that, because it's been chipped away. I mean, they've been doing it, but we, presume the sort of tagline for all Supreme Court nominees was, well, I believe in precedent, so I'll uphold Roe v. Wade. At least one of the names under consideration now has questioned, well, why all this deference to precedent, Amy Barrett. So, I think, and that's probably the most extreme example, but it's a sign of, again, boundaries being crossed that we never thought would be crossed before.
And beyond that, predictably, some of the reaction has been, and I know that Speaker Pelosi said, keep as many arrows in the quiver as possible, but people talking about packing courts, people talking about, adding states here and creating a different Senate count here with statehoods, and, impeachment all over again. I'm hearing conversations. I'm really concerned, Mimi, about crisis of legitimacy when it comes to things I never thought we'd have to worry about. The Supreme Court. I mean, you came, you always told me on and off camera that you checked your politics at the door when you walked into the SDNY, as did other federal prosecutors. And I don't believe that to be lip service. I really believe that. But it almost seems like a quaint time, even though it was just a few years ago. Everything seems so hyper-partisanized and politicized that people believe you can't trust anything. And I think that's the greatest risk of this country right now facing.
I completely agree, and you're right about all of that. The one thing I'll say, though, is there's a difference between the elected officials and the political types politicizing the court versus the court itself, right? So, look, no one opposed, Brett Kavanaugh more than I did. I mean, I was very vocal about it. But once he was on the court, I understood why Justice Sotomayor and Justice Ginsburg had to welcome him into the family and make him a colleague and all that. Like, I do understand, for the good of the institution, why things like that happen. So my question is, why would someone, even someone who is, a diehard conservative and wants to be on the Supreme Court, but how could a judge do this in this atmosphere, allow themselves to be part of this political manipulation? That's actually where I have the biggest problem. Not with I wish the Republicans, in my view, would play fair. They're not. I wish this wasn't so politicized. I wish we could mourn Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a few days, even before we get into all this. But more importantly, I would like to think that anyone who's worthy of the Supreme Court would say, you know what? I'm not going to be part of this political mess. Now, maybe that's naive, but it's what I wish and would hope for in someone who would be on the court.
By the way, taking politics out, the human decency of it, there's a ghoulishness of the president doubting the final words recounted by Ruth Bader Ginsburg's own family as to what her final wishes were, and her body not even literally being cold yet, and people, clamoring to start the process as soon as possible. It's just so unseemly, I find here, and beyond the hypocrisy that we're going to get into in detail in a minute. It just, Mimi, just feels wrong on so many levels.
Absolutely. I mean, Mitch McConnell tweeted or put out a statement within 2 hours of her death being announced. Again, putting aside, as you say, the hypocrisy and the wrongness, I believe, of the position he's taking, couldn't he have waited at least 24 hours? It's to your point that we've, again, crossed boundaries. But, look, Mitch McConnell can be voted out. And, obviously, I, as a Democrat, hope that he is. But justices on the Supreme Court should hold themselves to a higher standard. And so, again, I do wonder, how can someone let themselves be nominated in this circumstance?
Well, Mimi, I appreciate the time. And you are looking at very likely the next district attorney in the county of Westchester in New York. I always appreciate a few minutes with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard. Great to be with you.
You too. All right, I mentioned before Mitch McConnell and his tortured history with this. Well, in 2016, he blocked President Obama from even getting a vote on a Supreme Court nominee. Now, A similar situation, McConnell handling things 180 degrees differently. We're going to call out the hypocrisy of both McConnell as well as some of his Senate colleagues when I come back.